Hey everybody, this is Stu Smith and Jeff Nichols with the Tactical Fitness Report. And today we're going to talk about something that we get asked all the time. And I've written about it and I have talked about it many times. And that is mental toughness. Um, I like to compare it to that invisible 800-pound elephant in the training room because you got all your training, you're going to be doing workouts, but there's this part of the workout that is an intangible trait that you get out of it, and that is mental toughness. But that takes sometimes years, sometimes, year after year after year, and workout after workout after workout of not quitting. And you build these habits, and these habits become persistence, and the persistence becomes discipline, and discipline can help you better have some mental toughness. So that's kind of how we're going to frame it today for you guys. And Jeff and I are going to go back and forth, talking about some of our own situations, maybe where we had to tap into mental toughness because maybe our fitness wasn't preparing us properly for it. That's another way to look at when if you can delay tapping into mental toughness, that's probably the best option.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our frame, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. You do your intro on mental
All
toughness
right.
because it's just such a
Yeah, it
wide
is. It's super
animal.
amoebus, and it's hard to really wrap our head around this because I guess my what I'm encouraging you all to do is understand what we're saying, not just hear what we're saying, because it's the intent on what we're trying to disseminate to you all is probably more important than just like, hey, be mentally tough and do these things. Is the way that I think about attacking, if you will, the ability to acquire mental toughness is, and Stu hit it already, is it's a process, right? It is something we are not as humans, especially with whatever our disposition is. We grew up with no stress, a ton of stress, like how our parents raised us. Maybe our parents didn't raise us. Did we grow up on a beach in the mountain? I don't know. Like there's certainly some variables that will contribute to being mentally tough. Now, if anybody had that recipe, we wouldn't be doing this podcast because the information would be just clear and concise, like an instruction manual. So much of this, I think that Stu and I have already covered over the last 10 or so in pieces. And one of those big pieces for me is just that there's a big bit of patience that comes with this, because we understand many of you just want to, like, hey, get out of school and go in the Navy and do this. But there is something. I had this conversation with the regional director of SEAL Mentor in the state of Texas this morning, actually, because someone contacted me about an age waiver. And there is this trend right now, from what I understand, in the Navy that is trying to get more guys from the fleet to come in because they're a little bit older. Age doesn't matter in the sense of a numerical number, but what matters in sense of age sometimes is that someone that's 25 has experienced sorrow and defeat and failure and all these sort of things. Whereas maybe now there are certainly some 18-year-olds that have had to grow up way too fast.
Yeah.
But there are certain things with independence and maturity and decision-making based off that independence that happens as someone's a little bit older. There's something to be said about that. So that's what I mean by be patient. Don't be in such a big rush that you forget what you're really trying to get into. You're getting to something that's not, and Stu and I said this off camera, this is a lifestyle. Okay, this is not an event. This is not just something you do. This has got to be something who you are. Otherwise, it's going to chew you up and spit you out.
Yeah. Yeah, I also like to say, there's no podcast or book or meme or poster or video that is going to make you mentally tough. It's just, so if you're looking for that type of answer in any of those, you're not going to find it. You might find those things motivate you, and that's fine, because that's the first step. I remember the first time I was like, what is a Navy SEAL? And I was like, oh, that is really cool. And then I looked at, what the standards were and what I had to do to change from a powerlifting football player into that type of performance body. And that took time. That took me a couple of years. I had a couple more years of college to go through anyway, but it still took significant amount of my time and learning new things, about, what it really meant to be an endurance athlete, when you're a power athlete, because, I've said this many times, when I was coming up, I thought anything over 100 yards, maybe 400 yards was long distance running. I remember a mile and a half was long distance running,
Yeah.
so it takes a lot of that. And that whole transition requires, persistence, you day in and day out, getting into the weight room and building that, waking up early, because your schedule may be so tight that's the only time that you can work out. And every day that you don't hit the snooze button and you don't skip that workout, or you dip your toe into the pool and you jump in anyway because it's cold, that's another day where you just built mental toughness.
Yeah.
It's not something that is going to snap and you have it. You build this thing in a progression, and sometimes it takes years.
Yeah. I think that, motivation, I want to kind of, I want to describe in my mind how I see motivation. Motivation is basically, it's the start. It's a flame. It's a match. That's all it is to me.
Yeah.
Because here's the reality, in my opinion, is that no matter how motivated you are as an individual, when things really get tested, that motivation doesn't propel me through moments of duress. What propels me through moments of duress and stress is the process, right? Is all that groundwork that we lay behind us, for the ahead of us. It's those guys. I think when I think of motivation, this is what I think. I think of guys in my buds class that took cold showers and that were just so overly zealously flamboyant and excited, and it was their projection of insecurity. That's the way I saw that. If all you have is motivation, it's fragile.
Yeah.
Because the motivation has got to get you out of bed to forge your process. The motivation's got to get you just like, you know what? I get all fired up, get in the water. And then you got to work, you got to rely on that process. So motivation is right on. Like, you've got to have it. That's the starter. That's the starter fluid, or the initial flame. But motivation will only get you to the starting line.
Yeah.
It won't get you to the finish.
Yeah.
And that's where you've got to wear it away. You got to wear that down. And so just keep that in mind. Like, if all you have is motivation extrinsically, like, I just really want to be a SEAL, but you don't know why. Or if it's like, I'm really excited, this is going to be new for me, but I don't know why. Figure out the why. Because that why is what gets you through.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. So how about this one? So when we talk about motivation, I have seen some really cool motivational descriptions of what mental toughness is. I think probably one of my favorites is Jocko's, when he just says, you want mental toughness, just get tougher.
Yep.
He's not wrong.
He's not
wrong at all. And you get tougher every day by not skipping that workout, by eating right and being disciplined with your, taking care of your body, and all of those things.
So let me just frame that very, very quickly. And because you and I and Jocko feel the same way, but the difference is we're 30, 40 something men that spent a lifetime just going, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Shut up and do it. Shut up and do it. Now we're just the point where we're going like, hey, because of who we are and how we developed ourselves or how we were exposed to as kids and our parents raised us, that was our life. So it makes sense to us. So don't mistake us when we're just like, well, it's not that simple. In retrospect, it has been for us. And that's exactly what we're talking about, is that you guys have got to just take every moment you can and go, screw it, I'm going to do it. Screw it, I'm going to do it. Well, because then when you're 35 and 40, you can look back and go, hey man, just get tougher. Because so that's the framework. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to deliver it in a way that you guys can digest it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good, here's one of my favorites. When I've written a bunch of articles on mental toughness, and you can find them in the description, in the links. But when I was doing some research, I found this one post that I thought was really good. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the physiology of it a little bit, because this would be interesting. And it is finding the fuel when the tank is empty, right? So you think you are personally done, right? You can't move another muscle, but somehow you find a way to keep moving, but physiologically, what's going on there?
Well, I think that this really interesting thing happens with stress is the body doesn't make this distinction between, hey, I'm going for a long run that's stressful, or I'm fleeing for my life.
That's true.
Now, biochemically, there's some things that happen with serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, certain other things, adrenaline. But the reality is that stress is stress is stress. And the more you, again, this is right out of Dave Grossman's Pulitzer Prize winning book, which is a must read, on killing.
Yep. Classic.
It's stress inoculation. And so the body is inherently trying to protect you. So keep that in mind when you really genuinely, and it's a real feeling, you really feel like you can't go on. Your body systems begin to shut down because it's in total flight. And then when you go, well, wait a minute, I can go a little bit further. Now you've reacclimated to a different level of stress. And then you go further and go further. Well, by the time you've done this, like Stu did for a couple of years, and I did this for a couple of years, well, now my litmus or my measurement for stress had changed so dramatically over 2 years of training that now it's like, well, shoot, like I can endure this. And so then when you get to buds and you kind of start resetting that barometer for suck, it goes, well, wait a minute. Like I acclimated it to a before, because you have this entire history of acclimating to new stressors. This is just a new stressor that in the past you've gone, wait a minute, I can do this. Instead of, again, that's where like the 18-year-old kid that's never maybe really been challenged and goes, oh my God, I might die. I physically can't go on. It's just because they don't have this history of overcoming these physiological moments of total distress. And that's what the physiology says, is like, we want to keep challenging you. Like we train, first world problems. Stu and I have guys train on a daily basis specifically for buds. These kids in young adults, they don't have enough stress in their life, so they are paying us or spending time with us for us to place stress upon them to create an adaptation, right? So that's where you get somebody like you go to some, like in my buds class, that grew up with great stress. Didn't, like I mentioned the guy before, slept in the trunk of a car until he was 12, couldn't read or write until then, and he showed up to buds and was like, this is a cakewalk. Yeah. Unfortunately, he had to really grow up physiologically fast to encounter those physical stressors. Most of us, me included, I grew up with the most loving family that I didn't have any stress. Yeah. And that's why I always say, I wonder how I would have done at 18. Right. At 22, I handled it fine because I had been an athlete and had a lot of failure and heartbreak and all these sort of things and struggled. So I lived on my own in Alabama. My family was in Iowa. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it does help. Not being homesick.
Yeah,
is helpful. I mean, you're 18 years old. You're homesick.
Yeah,
you miss your girlfriend, who's now with
your best friend.
Who dumped you. You miss all your buddies. And it's 4th of July, and your buddies are going out, and you're like, stuck somewhere and not being able to do anything. I remember, I had a different route, went through plebe year, freshman year at the Naval Academy. And, and I look back at it now, it wasn't that very stressful. I almost laugh at it now. But as an 18-year-old kid,
it's terrible.
It was terrifying. It was stressful. I was no longer like big guy on campus. Whenever I left high school, you just, you played all the sports, you did well in school, you were just the guy, and then when you went there, it's just like, whoa.
And I'll say that's exactly why I wanted to fly jets when I was a kid. Initially, I wanted to fly F-14s.
Same.
I know some guys that wanted that from my school that went to West Point and then Air Force Academy and Naval Academy. But the idea of what you endured scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that. Now, did I have the grades to do it? Maybe, but I had the leadership and the sports aptitude to kind of make up for that, probably to get in the academy.
Yeah.
But it scared me to death. And that's why I think that at 18, I don't know that I would have been equipped for buds.
Oh, I know I wouldn't have.
Right.
Like I said, I got my ass handed at plebe summer workouts, which are a joke.
Yeah. And so that's the thing is, like, we're not even just talking physical stress, folks. We're talking that emotional duress and social duress that honestly is way worse than physical. Because I'll tell you this right now, buds is far less physically tasking than it is emotionally tasking. Just know that. Like, certainly buds is physically difficult, and that contributes to the social emotional stress. But the emotional stress of loneliness and distress that you're going to feel in your heart at buds is going to be daunting.
Yeah. Especially, you're constantly receiving negative feedback.
Yep.
From instructors. And
that's the system. That's by design. So know that.
Yeah. And, that is just one of those things. You are going to be the worst at something that they've ever seen. Right. And you're going to be every day,
Yep.
And then, eventually, once you start proving yourself, especially post Hell Week, you might even start getting some positive reinforcement, and that goes a long way. I mean, that is like, I can chew on that for a month, when somebody says I did something well, and so, having these little victories, at buds, is huge for you. That's why I say, you got to go in really good shape and be prepared, for the show. I mean, because it is coming down on you. How about this one? We kind of talked about this one a little bit, but there's another saying I like is one of my British commando buddies told me. He said, get in killer shape so you don't have to engage mental toughness until later. I remember first phase, being tough, right? Wasn't horrible, but I never really had to engage that mental toughness until Hell Week.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some moments that were dark and cold and wet and sandy, but that was just part of the game. That never really bothered me. But the Hell Week was definitely the gut check, and I would say to this, you can't really prepare for that stress. I mean, that is a week long of stress, and you're really running on adrenaline. As long as you're eating every meal, you will have some energy physically and physiologically, but really you're just running on adrenaline, for that whole week.
So make no mistake about that. You cannot prepare for Hell Week.
Yeah.
In the sense of, well, I'm going to stay up late every night and don't that sort of like take cold showers, get used to cold water. I forget the woman's name who swam the Bering Strait. She prepared for 18 months on the Southern California coast and just worked her way up north until she acclimated after a year or two of swimming cold water.
Wow,
Got it.
Great.
But
story.
she also put on 40 pounds of fat specifically to insulate. So cold shower is one thing. Okay. But Hell Week, what Stu and I are doing from the physical standpoint for our athletes is that we want to get them acclimated to as much physical stress as they can, because we know from a standpoint of factual physiology that the more physical stress that you can endure, the more you're going to be able to fight off illness, injury, disease, fatigue, all those sort of things. That's why physical state of readiness is so valuable in a state of emotional duress, just like food.
Yeah.
So is it Patton at the Battle of the Bulge was said that, you know, the guys that went through, or some sort, it was a Bastogne, not the Bulge.
Right.
He said that the men that came out of Bastogne, if you haven't looked, the Band of Brothers, there's an entire episode and a half on Bastogne.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
It's the most depressing episode I've ever seen. It's like episode 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives a snapshot because that lasted months. That barrage of mortars. They were able to endure that, some guys would say, just because they were just trying to get to their next top meal. Like the human body is so good at handling stress.
Yeah.
So when you have those moments of relaxation, take them, right? When you have a week of it, take it. But just understand that we are trying to get you as physically capable. So when you endure that physical duress, you are equipped to take on that emotional stress that's going to come.
Yeah. And, you know, be honest with you, eventually, you know, you can't even, what's a good word for it? After day 3, it's really difficult to even feel stress anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you're really kind of, I hate to say you're kind of like a zombie just doing stuff, but really, I mean, in your head, you're just saying, what are they going to do to me? Get me wet and sandy, make me do push-ups.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things you just roll right through.
If memory serves me correctly, after the 3rd day of Hell Week, they're like, no one really quits. And I remember being in Hell Week and they said, there's only been like 3 or 4 documented cases of after the 3rd night of Hell Week that someone actually quit.
Right.
So there is this surreal, very, very palatable difference. What happens that morning of day 4? You see this entire mood shift of the cadre. Not that it's easy.
Right.
But you just see everyone go, fuck, man. Like, I know I'm not going to quit, but I have to do this for 2 more days. Yeah. And that's the point. Those 2 days is where the brotherhood is created. That's where it's created. And that is why the SEAL community is so good, because every SEAL has to endure that. Yeah. And it's nothing to take away from the SF guys or Ranger. By all means, all love for that. But there's the uniqueness of our community because we all have to endure those moments together, officer and enlisted.
Yeah.
I remember too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember.
They're empathetic of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that transition. I think it was we won the what do you call the paddle around the island?
Yeah,
around the world.
Around the world, yeah.
Around the world paddle, yeah. So it was around.
What night did you do that? What night did you?
I can't remember now.
We did that. That was our last evening, and then we finished the paddle. We went down the demo pits.
Yeah, it was close.
They secured us at noon on the beach.
Day 3, day 4, somewhere around there. And I remember winning that, and we were a couple hours ahead of the last boat, and we didn't have to do anything. They put us in like a spoon formation and then put the boat on top of us, and we just went to sleep. And I remember that moment being like, I have never been more comfortable in my life than I am right now. I'm warm. I'm sitting in sand. I'm still wet. And I got a boat on top of me. But yet I am the most comfortable I've ever been in my life. And I think once you make that day 3 transformation into almost like a caveman, you figured it out. You know, it has clicked. And I don't have a magic formula for how that happens. It just happened.
Yeah, it happens to me because of the people that are around you as well. Yeah. It's hard to, again, for those of you that are listening to this, and for those of you that will get to day 4 on Hell Week, this will make sense. Yeah, it will, and you'll go, "Oh man, I remember this." You'll never forget it. Yeah. But it'll be very palatable. What I mean by that is it'll be very recognizable. Actually, I was going through all the photos of my buds class. There's 17,000 of them. The photographer sent to me. And I was going through that. We run that race too, and they let us sleep. But we were in single file, and I'm the end guy, so I don't have to lean against to, but I have my hat on me, and I'll send you the picture, but I'm out, like sound asleep, soaking wet next to a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So it's those moments. It's funny. I'm going through those pictures. I'm like, man, like I forgot all this.
Yeah.
But I remember it instantly. So yeah, I think that. Yeah. Anyways.
All right. So let's. Jeff and I went through this text, almost a rant / ideas. Kicking back ideas, what we're going to talk about, and mental toughness was one. Yeah, we need to talk about mental toughness. And then we're also talking about, probably it's going to be our next podcast. And sealswick.com, the command at Buds did a study, and it just shows all of the scores in the PST events that you need to make it through Hell Week. And they kind of framed it in a way to where you kind of see that, running and swimming is important, and lower body power is important. And there were some things that were less important, and they gave you some advice, and it was pretty good advice. I think we'll probably kind of break that down in the next one. But the one thing that I did notice on there were some exceptional times that didn't make it through Hell Week. And there were some horrible PT scores and runs and swims, the guys that still made it through Hell Week. So there was an award at Buds called the Fire in the Gut Award. Explain a little bit about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an award without being awarded, kind of, because I remember the guy that got it in my Buds class. He would perpetually fail the PSTs and then pass one and fail it and pass one and struggle. And turns out he's a fantastic SEAL. The point of it is that it's not an award you necessarily want to win, but at the same time, you're like, there is some real value in our community of a person that is an ethical person, may not have like the physical characteristics that we would say, absolutely, that guy's a stellar performer. But when you take character, really high character, and you take somebody that you see those people that work really hard, but they're not really working that hard. I mean, but then you see the guys are just like, I mean, you could see every ounce of them is putting everything they've got into it.
Yes, every day,
every
event. I mean,
and but they're like mid all the time, but they are giving it hell. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, some people will never be that top 1% as far as like run the fastest, but they'll always be that top 1% of work ethic.
Yes.
And that's really valued. So I can't understate. It's hard to explain exactly what I'm talking about, but we are in control of how hard, not just effort, but I'm talking quality. That's the one thing that we're trying to share with you all, is you are in control of the quality and effort you put in. Always, above all else, because you're not going to be able to control what goes on at Buds. That's way out of your hands. But you can control how fervently, how determined you are every moment. And I remember those guys still. Now, did I not work my ass off? No, but I was really physically skilled in a couple things where I could, for lack of it, I'll be honest, like on the runs, I didn't have to run hard to get my 29 minutes, because I knew that if I did that, it'd take away from, because on the O course, I was top 3, 4 guys.
Same.
Swimming, I was top 1 or 2 guys. And then the PT stuff, the pull-ups, wasn't even fatiguing for me.
Right.
It wasn't. I was never out of breath or even tired on the pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, or any of that stuff, or rope climbs or dips. Like it was a break for me.
It was a fun workout.
That's it.
Yeah.
And not to say that they weren't difficult, but I enjoyed that stuff.
Yes.
And it was for a place for me to shine. So, and this guy that won the Fire in the Gut Award, he had, it was exhausting for me to watch him, because he had to put out even on the island, to get his 15, 14, 12 pull-ups, because you have to do pull-ups with your kid on to just eat.
Yep.
And he ate every meal on the island wet. And it's not a short run to the
That
beach.
sucks. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's because that's the thing is if you get a third phase, if you can't do frog runs, you can't do this, you're going to spend your day wet, and it's cold as hell out there.
Yeah.
I never once got wet when I wasn't supposed, because I was like, no way. But I was physically skilled in pull-ups and dips and stuff. But anyway, it's not about me. Just keep that in mind. It's just work your ass off and do good at that.
Yeah. Yeah. The gut check, the Fire in the Gut Award is really, I mean, the guy that got in my class went through Hell Week twice, which is just, if you go through it twice in a matter of like 3 months, are you kidding me? I mean, that's just insane.
So we had a guy, same thing. So he went through Hell Week. His name is Dave Stoll, one of the best guys I've ever known. Went through Hell Week. And then he got to second phase. He had forgotten the key because he was in charge of getting coffee for second phase every morning. He forgot the key at the barracks. He didn't want to run back, so he thought he'd climb through the window. And when he did, it broke the window, and the glass cut him through his testicles and stuff and up through his gut. So they medically rolled him for like 8 months. Right? Oh. He repeated Hell Week, did it for full time, second time, got to second phase, and his wife got leukemia. Dave is such a good dude, right? They're like, well, so he went on basically Navy sabbatical to take care of his wife. So another 8 to 12 months, his wife went into remission, thank God. Comes back into our class. He's repeated Hell Week twice, been through first phase twice, went through first phase with us, got to Hell Week. He did breakout with us, and then Captain Smithers at the time goes, Dave, you're done. You don't need to do it a third time. So he pulled him out, and he worked Hell Week with us.
Oh, that's nice.
It's crazy because what a good dude he is and was. Awesome. And just like so again, there's those sort of things where what I mean, that's what I mean. If you are genuinely a good person and you work your ass off.
Yeah, that's a great
That's
story.
who got it for us. That's who got the war.
Yeah,
the command and the people will recognize that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So here's a great question I'm sure you get, about training for mental toughness. How long does it take, to train to be mentally tough? I think I got all my numbers right, but I'm not sure if I'm mentally tough.
Yeah.
Asking those questions. And they're very vague questions, and they're very hard to answer.
Right.
I don't want to put you on the spot and say, hey, try to answer it, because it's almost an answerable question.
Yeah. It's like define fitness.
Right. I just say, for me, you've been training for this all your life, but you just may not realize it. Those sports that you played in high school and in Little League and, those things, you might have played some in college, waking up early to train, all those little things, being cold, in a morning swim workout. Those things build mental toughness. That is why we do them. We do them because we want to compete, and it helps. So, I say, every day you got to practice, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, which is another classic saying.
Yeah, I think I'm not one for metaphors, but here's the one I'm going to use. I want you to think of, I grew up near the Mississippi River, pretty powerful river. And I was from Iowa, and there was like a historically monumental flood in 1993. I was a freshman in high school. It just wiped out a ton of eastern Iowa. A lot of farms where I was at. And, but the Mississippi, certain places, it held because its banks were big and strong. Like, think of like Buds and Fortitude and all those sort of things as a very strong river. And the only way to control that is to have two strong banks, right? You could have one really strong bank and one that erodes away, and you're going to have a mess. So that is what I think of like mental toughness. You have to have a routine. You have to have a plan, even if it's a loose plan at first. Like, about everything, be rigid. Be like I remember my boot camp chief was like, "You are the most uptight human being I've ever met." I'm like, "Yes, I am. I am. I'm very unforgiving about what I want to achieve, how to get there. Even it's kind of like cut my ear off to spite my face."
Yeah.
But I knew that, like, here's what you need to know about Buds. You can't go in half-cocked.
Yeah.
And the best way to go into something that is a total unknown to you is to prepare that as vigilantly as you can. Prepare for that as vigilantly as you can. And it's everything in your life. Did you make your bed? It sounds silly. Did you make your bed in the morning? Nope. Then go make it, right? Did you make a point to go, I have a busy day. How am I going to plan on eating and training for buds? Make a plan, right? How do you treat people, right? There's a lot that goes into it that goes completely unseen until you get into Hell Week or in buds and go, I am so glad that my dad, when I was 6 years old, whooped my ass with the antenna of his El Camino because I left his screwdriver in my sandbox. I'm thankful for my dad. He made me take the antenna off his burnt orange El Camino, and he whooped my butt with it. I never left that screwdriver out again. So
Yeah.
God love him. I'm so glad that I was raised the way I was because I had really strong banks because I was taught to me. I'm not just saying my parents.
Right.
I'm saying you can't go into buds just like laissez-faire. So now there are some guys that are just, hey, this is like the two youngest guys in my buds class are like, meh, whatever. Right. I woke up to them skateboarding barefoot on the little 618 grind, grinder area the morning after Hell Week, and I couldn't hardly walk. And they were barefoot on a skateboard, I was like, Jesus, yeah, there is something to be said about 18 youth, but yes. They just, anyways.
Yeah, that's impressive. That is impressive. The 18-year-old kids that made it through, and most did not, I just want to say, the ones that made it through are exceptional human beings and could do anything in the world that they put their mind to. I mean, I think
we had three. I think we had three that were 18.
I think we did too. One might have turned 19.
Yeah,
we're going through, but yeah, they're exceptional people. How about this? We're going to close this one up. So we got. Here's the deal. Motivation's great. We're all motivated to go do something. Things motivate us. Movies, speeches, memes, funny videos, whatever. We get motivated and get fired up to go do things. That's great. Keep that motivation. Figure out your why, and that can be a huge motivation for you every day, especially when you are not motivated. Because there are some days you just don't feel motivated, and that's when you have to rely on the things that you have done in the past correctly, like every day doing something persistently, consistently, building that discipline. Because once you have the discipline, you're there, and mental toughness is right around the corner,
right?
When you need it.
Yep. Yeah, it has to be built. I mean, understand that you perfectly said is that mental toughness is built.
Yeah, I like that.
It is not acquired through it's not gifted. Right. It's not inherent. I don't believe it to be totally maybe the capacity for inherent mental. My dad grew up, in a farm with 10 other brothers and sisters, right? In Iowa, during the Depression. I get it, right? So my father and mother handed it to me based off of who they are as people. I'm trying to hand that off to my son better than my parents gave it to me. I want my, so point of it is that this goes right into, if you are 18 years old or 19, you're kind of I really want to do it, but I'm not quite sure if I'm mentally tough. Then it's just like when I work in the professional world is, I go in and work with X NBA team or this team or whatever. And they go, well, we want mental toughness. I go, well, let's give them the capacity for achieving something outside of just their sport. I don't want to build mental toughness around basketball when they're NBA players. I want to take them and give them a skill that they would never have really acquired and make it difficult and make it so the team has to do it together.
Yeah.
Right. Set up some sort of, I don't want to say obstacle course. I have process to do that, but whether it's working a part-time job or whatever it is, build it. Build your mental toughness the best way you know how. You can have other people kind of help you go through that process. But I can't emphasize this enough. If you're 18 and 19 years old and you want to be a SEAL, take a big deep breath and spend some time doing it, because I can almost guarantee you that you will be better off regardless of whether you even decide to join the Navy, but you will be better off for it. You will be, by experiencing difficulty and failure and heartbreak and all. It sounds so narcissistic.
Yeah.
I don't wish ill upon anybody, but there is something to be said about maturation in decision making. Build it. Don't think you're just gonna, because I didn't know that I could just snap my fingers necessarily and go, yep, I'm gonna make it through BUD/S. Like, did I question whether I was gonna? I knew I wasn't gonna quit, but there is that sense of unknown of like, well, people say it's so difficult. People this, like, you just don't know. But then you get there and like, okay, I got it. I'm gonna do this.
And I'll tell you what, another thing that is shocking to you as you're going through and you kind of have it figured out, but then you see people who you think are stronger than you, tougher than you, and they quit.
Yeah.
Before Hell Week, first hour of Hell Week. And usually when you see the strongest guy in your class quit, there's like 10 people follow.
Yeah.
It's like,
so understand this. That's such an awesome point, because when somebody goes away and you're still there, that is not that voice in your head should be validating your position, not devaluating your quality.
Yes.
Someone goes away and you're still there. That's like, yep, I'm still here because I'm here.
Yeah.
Not because, well, if the strong can't make it, screw that. Every moment that you're there because you want to be there. No one's making you stay there, and no one's taking you away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing people quit and saying, it hadn't even gotten hard yet.
Yeah.
Because
they get so freaked out.
That's where you want to be. Right.
Yep. It's just like we were saying, I think we said the other day, is like, if you showed up to BUD/S and you started broadcasting distances and timelines to people right away, like, well, guys, yeah, we're going to do this. And by the end of the day, we have a 14-mile run. You get people quitting left and right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's best not to know.
Yeah.
It really is. But
that's a good point.
So just no one has the right to be there. Okay. Just know that no one is there because they're better than anyone else. No one is there because they've earned it more than anyone else. I'm talking about BUD/S.
Yeah.
You're there because you choose to be there. Period.
Yeah. And you've proven yourself to a point that you get accepted to go through the test.
Yes.
The test is BUD/S. And
it's an awesome thing if you approach it that you deserve to be there, because nobody put you there but you.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the best way for me to say, we're not special because of what we've done. I think we've afforded ourselves a position to help others like we're trying to do, because we made that decision that we owe it to ourselves to do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And, as you were stating that, there's a lot of self-confidence that occurs, after you've made it through there, but you have to have self-confidence the day you start it, and there's a big difference between self-confidence and arrogance. And you will see that real quickly.
Yep.
Without
a doubt. Really quickly.
Yeah. In the first 4 weeks, when you see people quitting, you will start to realize your class is a lot less arrogant after Hell Week.
As I always tell people, the military service, specifically the SEAL teams, has given me two things, but one leads the other. One, it has given me a really, really good sense of perspective. And that perspective was achieved through humility. Mm. And it, not to say that I've certainly been accused of being super arrogant and egotistical, and in their defense, yeah, I'm super confident. and I wasn't always like this, but I believe that that is what the military service has given me the ability to be objective, honest, upfront, and I'm so glad that I did it. Like,
Yeah.
I'll never lose this.
Yeah. I'll end it with this, because that's a great way to end it, is that every time there's somebody from our group that is heading to BUD/S, the last thing I tell them before they leave is, I'm jealous. I would do it all over again, you know, in a heartbeat. If I was 22 years old again, I would love to be in your shoes. So go out there and go have some fun and, you know, kick some butt.
Certainly. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
All right, Jeff, another one down. Thank you, sir. Yeah,
absolutely.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one to talk about, but
yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, hopefully you got something out of it, you guys that were listening. But we're going to talk a little more objectively next time when we talk about you know, some of the scores that you need to get to and through Hell Week.
Yep.
So that'll be our next one. So,
challenge
all right, Jeff,
accepted.
Until next time.
All right. Take care.
We'll see you.
Hey, this is Stu Smith, the voice behind all these swim videos. If you like what you see, check out some more of these videos on this channel, because I've taught everybody from beginners whose first lap was done swimming with me to advanced collegiate swimmers who just need to fine-tune their swim so they can break 6 minutes. So typically most of the people who work out with me are former athletes of some sort, but if you're interested, check out the website StuSmith.com for more books and ebooks on various PT skills and preparation guides for all types of training, military, law enforcement, or firefighter. But if you're local to the Maryland area, check out our Heroes of Tomorrow program by clicking the free workouts link on StuSmith.com and come join us. Can't argue with the price. This is Stu Smith. Hope you enjoy the videos.